My name is Fatima. I was a devout Muslim raised in the ancient streets of Istanbul, proud of the faith that shaped my life and identity. In the shadow of the magnificent Blue Mosque, I embraced tradition. I believed deeply in the teachings passed down through generations. My life revolved around prayer, devotion, and a community that thrived on shared beliefs. I thought I knew my path, but everything changed one fateful night. Suddenly, illness struck, a cruel thief of breath and consciousness. As I lay in a hospital bed, teetering on the edge of this world and the next, the familiar sounds of life faded into a haunting silence. In that abyss, a light emerged, calling my spirit into an exquisite realm where time unraveled. And there, enveloped in a radiant glow, stood Jesus. Confusion gripped me. How could this be? I had been taught that such encounters were impossible. Yet, in his gaze, I found an unsettling truth. He didn't speak words. He unraveled the very fabric of my understanding, revealing hidden tyrannies and veiled agendas intertwined with my world. I saw the fractures of society laid bare, a spiritual war being fought beyond the veil of perception. In that transformative moment, I felt a fervent urgency, a call to rise from ignorance, to awaken my heart and those around me to the truth I now grasped. Jesus revealed to me the faces of manipulation, the political elite, the media, and institutions thriving on division. I understood my responsibility. Share this revelation, confront the deceptions that keep us trapped, and awaken a world lulled into complacency. The light began to dim, drawing me back to the stark reality of my hospital room. Yet the embers of that awakening flickered within me. No longer could I remain silent or live in the shadows. The spiritual war was real, and I had been chosen to witness it. My journey had transformed from one of blind faith to an urgent quest for enlightenment, a mission to inspire others before it was too late. As we embark on this journey together, I invite you to engage. Where are you watching from? And what time is it in your corner of the world? Your geographic pulse connects us all. And if you yearn to delve deeper into these revelations, subscribe to Truth from Beyond. Each episode promises a glimpse into the layers of truth that lie obscured. Truth that could awaken your spirit in ways unimaginable. The journey of discovery is just beginning. I grew up in a respected Sunni Muslim family, in the heart of Istanbul, where the echoes of prayer mingled with the bustle of life. My days were woven into the fabric of devotion, drenched in rich cultural pride that hailed from the Ottoman heritage. Living in a conservative neighborhood near the Blue Mosque, I was encompassed by the sacredness of Islam. As a child, I wore my hijab with honor, attended prayers 5 times a day, and studied the Quran in the local madrasa. Those teachings were my foundation. My heart sang with loyalty to the words of our leaders. To question was to betray. I believed firmly in the path laid before me. That world shifted dramatically one fateful evening. It was a typical night, tranquil and unremarkable, until I succumbed to an unforeseen illness. As I lay in the hospital, fighting for breath but drifting toward a shadowy brink, I felt an unfamiliar peace enveloping me. The bright lights of the hospital faded, and I found myself caught in an ethereal realm. I hovered in a state between life and death, a near-death experience that was more profound than mere visions. There, in that space of silence, I felt an undeniable presence. And then he appeared, Jesus. At first, I was engulfed in confusion and fear. I had been raised in a faith that didn't embrace his image, that deemed such encounters impossible. Yet, around him, there was a warmth that radiated love and authenticity. He looked at me with eyes that seemed to pierce through the veils of pretense, unraveling the hidden agendas of power, the elite controlling the narratives, the deceptions woven into our very societies. He didn't speak with words. Instead, he conveyed truths that surged through my mind like a torrent. I witnessed visions of a world fracturing under the weight of silence, where faith was manipulated, where division reigned. With each revelation came a deeper understanding, a sense of urgency. The spiritual war playing out beyond our awareness was as real as the air I breathed. I saw the hidden battles between truth and deception, the fight for souls being waged daily. Jesus revealed how many, including those I had once held in high regard, were tools of manipulation, obscuring the truth to maintain control. Political leaders, powerful institutions, they danced to the rhythm of a hidden agenda while humanity paid the price. The stakes were higher than I had ever imagined. In that moment, I felt a call to awaken, to rise from the slumber imposed by societal structures and confront the reality of this unfolding crisis. The weight of each revelation settled in my heart like lead. The urgency of action was palpable. I witnessed wars that were not just fought on battlefields, but within the souls of individuals lost in the chaos. The fabric of our society was fraying, and the call to unity was drowned beneath the cacophony of division. Jesus urged me to share this vision, to awaken others before it was too late, a plea for a reckoning, for honesty in a world rife with lies. Just as quickly as it had all begun, the light around me dimmed, and the peaceful brightness faded into the stark reality of the hospital room. As I regained consciousness, the embers of those revelations still flickered in my heart, a constant reminder of what I had witnessed. The experience had transformed me. I could no longer live in shadows or silence. I had been given a glimpse into the truth, a mission to awaken as many as I could. I felt the heavy burden of responsibility resting on my shoulders, knowing that this was just the beginning of my journey. A path of discovery, of spreading urgent truths, had opened before me, and I could not turn back. The world was on the brink of something monumental, and my voice, a voice once stifled, was determined to emerge. I was living what seemed to be the quintessential American dream. A modest house in the suburbs, a steady job as a truck driver, and a beautiful family waiting for me at home. I often prided myself on the simple joys: weekend, barbecues, laughter echoing through the halls, and the sense of safety that came with routine. Yet beneath the gleam of that facade, I felt an unease creeping in. Life had morphed into a series of tasks, leaving behind an unsettling void, a disconnection from the very soul of my existence. Despite the demands of my job and the comfort of family, I felt like a spectator, watching moments slip through my fingers like grains of sand, each day blurring into the next. On one fateful evening, the weight of my mundane reality would collide violently with destiny. I was on my usual route, the highway stretching out under the faint glow of the setting sun. In an instant, that serenity shattered. Another driver's reckless maneuver sent my truck careening, and before I knew it, I was greeted by the deafening crash of metal against metal. The world around me dissolved into darkness as pain surged through my body like wildfire. What followed felt like an eternity, a near-death experience that pulled me from the turbulent chaos into an indescribable stillness. In that dark abyss, I found myself suspended, detached from the suffering that had engulfed my physical self. Then, a radiant light pierced through the void. At its center stood Jesus, a figure of transcendent grace and compassion. His gaze bore into my soul, illuminating every corner of doubt and despair I had buried deep within. "You've searched for truth your whole life, haven't you?" he asked, and as his words washed over me, I felt a profound awakening, as if every question I had ever pondered was answered in that moment. He held a truth that transcended my understanding of reality, unraveling the illusions that had been woven around me, and revealing a hidden agenda that threatened to engulf humanity. "Look," he commanded gently, and before my inner eye, scenes of the world unfolded, a panoramic view of war, suffering, and division. I witnessed the puppeteers behind the curtain, an elite few orchestrating chaos. Through deception and manipulation, using fear as a weapon to control the masses, I saw families torn apart by division and ideology, Nations pitted against one another, each conflict a distraction from the true war being waged. My heart raced as I grasped the enormity of it all. This was not simply about politics or power, but a spiritual war targeting the core of our humanity. Jesus' voice echoed in my mind, demanding awakening, urging me to see beyond the smoke and mirrors of modern society. The truths he unveiled were staggering. I understood how technology had become a double-edged sword, simultaneously a tool for connection and a means of control, feeding the ever-expanding divide. Media manipulations distorted our perceptions, painting those who seek unity as antagonists. Seated at the top of this twisted hierarchy, the elite perpetuated lies that kept us from recognizing our shared humanity. Jesus showed me how hearts and minds had become battlegrounds, each individual, struggling against the tide of false narratives. The urgency of his message surged through me, propelling me to question everything I once took for granted, the very fabric of my existence. In those moments, I realized the grave responsibility placed upon me to not only awaken to this truth, but to awaken others, guiding them to light amid the overwhelming darkness. Then the world began to shift again, and I felt the pull back to my broken body as I started to drift away from that luminous encounter. A sense of dread enveloped me. "Remember," Jesus' voice resonated in my mind, "the battle is not over. It has only just begun." With those final words echoing through me, the veil was drawn back. I awoke on the hospital bed, my body battered and bruised, yet my spirit ignited like never before. The confrontation with truth had left an indelible mark on my soul, urging me to bear witness. The road ahead glimmered with uncertainty, yet I felt the weight of an unshakable faith, intertwining with the fierce will to fight back against the deception that entangled our lives. How could I not speak out? How could I remain silent when the shadows of disillusionment loomed ever larger? The awakening had begun, but the journey was far from over. I was just an ordinary man, a truck driver laboring under the weight of responsibility, with dreams crafted around the sounds of diesel engines and the steady hum of the open road. My life had its rhythm, a comforting predictability. I knew how to navigate the highways, the dampness of the early morning fog, the rolling hills under the vast sky. But like many, I carried burdens unseen, layers of anxiety built over years of stress and uncertainty. And in those moments alone behind the wheel, I often contemplated the purpose of it all, the meaning behind my existence as I moved through the vast landscapes of this country. Yet still, I advanced, day by day, hoping to find something more meaningful than mere survival. That hope turned to despair one fateful day. A sudden crash, metal twisting, glass shattering, into the night. Time dissolved into chaos. I felt myself leave my body, suspended in a dark void where the only clarity came from a profound silence. In that surreal moment of detachment, I glimpsed the chaotic frenzy of first responders, their urgent voices muffled by the sound of my fading heartbeat. I knew I was facing my own mortality, yet I felt an incredible sense of peace wash over me, as if all the burdens of my earthly life, work stress, familial disappointments, had been stripped away. I no longer felt like a truck driver, but a soul set free. And then he appeared. Jesus stood before me, radiant, draped in the light of 1,000 suns. His expression was compassionate, his presence enveloping me in warmth unlike anything I had known. I felt seen, truly seen, in every wound and scar of my soul. "What are you searching for?" he asked, though it felt less like a question and more like an invitation to unveil the deepest truths hidden within. I was still tethered to the weight of my life, yet here was the embodiment of love, beckoning me to understand the hidden agendas at play in the world. I saw flashes of humanity on the brink of destruction, the elites pulling strings behind the scenes, sowing fear and division among us. "You are caught in a spiritual war," he said, each word resonating through me, igniting a sense of urgency I had never felt before. In that sacred moment, Jesus laid bare the deceptions we all buy into, the lies that keep us fighting against each other instead of uniting. He showed me how power and technology could be wielded as weapons, shaping narratives that serve the interests of a few. I saw nations at war, not over ideologies, but manipulated by those who thrive on our division. We are pawns in a game played by shadowy figures, elite who twist the essence of faith for their own control. They cloak their intentions in spirituality, he warned. But the truth is they thrive on complacency, on fear. You must awaken others, for the truth lies dormant in those who seek. As he spoke, I experienced profound images of hope hidden amidst the chaos, the possibility of rebirth through awakening, the innate power of community, and the strength found in connection with the divine. My life faded in significance next to the calling I felt pulsing in my chest. I realized how lost I was in relationships built on pretense, lacking the real intimacy I yearned for, with God and with others. This moment was an invitation to not merely exist, but to engage with the world in a new and profound way. It was exhilarating and terrifying, this revelation, pushing against the boundaries of my understanding. I felt compelled to share the awakening that was now within me. But as fear rushed back, 1,000 what-ifs clawed at my mind. Socio-political fears, repercussions to my family, the skepticism I would undoubtedly face. The world I returned to was tinged with colors I never saw before. The blurred lines of daily life became sharper. Every person I encountered seemed soldiered by their own burdens, oblivious to the spiritual war raging around them. I no longer craved the solitude that once accompanied my drives. Instead, I sought connection, pouring my heart into conversations, finding ways to share my experience without reservation. I ventured back to the familiar truck stops and diners, speaking with fellow travelers who, like me, were often lost, seeking answers in the wrong places. The urgency was palpable, and I felt Jesus walking with me, reminding me of the ongoing battle against deception in every soul encountered. How could I keep silent when so many remained unsuspecting, blissfully unaware of their spiritual barrenness? With every mile driven, I felt more of a responsibility intertwining with my essence. I stirred within others the same thirst for awakening, urging them to see past the shadows cast upon our lives by the elites and their machinations. I began to realize that sharing my testimony wasn't enough. I needed to inspire action. I needed to confront the realities that are often disregarded. I felt the need to awaken my community, to invite those around me to see beyond their daily lives, to question and to seek. There was a mission burning within, yet it was fraught with unknowns. The fear of repercussions, of stepping into uncharted territory. It was an exhilarating journey, ignited beneath the mantle of divine truth. And in that trajectory, I knew I was only beginning to grasp the very fabric of the spiritual war that spun relentlessly around us, seeking to ensnare the spirits of the unwary. The path ahead loomed vast and dark, filled with unexpected challenges and revelations waiting to unfold. As I lived my quiet life as a truck driver, the open road felt like my only companion. Long stretches of highway, the hum of the engine, and the solitude of the cab were a comforting escape. My days flowed into nights, often marked by the rhythm of diesel engines and the fleeting moments of conversation with fellow travelers at rest stops. There was simplicity in my existence, yet beneath that surface lay a tension, an accumulation of unspoken fears that crept in during the late hours. I often wondered about the true purpose behind our relentless pursuits. What lay beyond the grind? Sometimes, as I closed my eyes, I would think about the world's chaos, the wars echoed in news headlines, and the constant division among people. It stirred something deep within me, a nagging question that tinged my heart with unease. That tension erupted one fateful night. It was a stormy evening, dark clouds rolling over the horizon as my truck made its way up a winding mountain path. Suddenly, the brakes failed, and I felt an icy grip of panic seize my chest. My world turned upside down as the truck careened off the road, rolling down a steep embankment. Impossibly slow, yet achingly fast. The weight of life crashing against the weight of fate. In that suspended moment, I thought I was going to die. I felt the darkness of fear enveloping me, stealing my breath. Just as the world faded away, the impact sent me into a void, a moment where time unraveled and everything went silent. And then came the light, a blinding, radiant brilliance that engulfed me. I found myself in a vast expanse where shadows faded and warmth filled my being. In that moment of divine clarity, I encountered him, Jesus. He looked at me with eyes full of compassion, eyes that seemed to penetrate the very core of my existence. A voice, soft yet powerful, resonated within me. You are loved, and your journey is unfolding. In that moment, a flood of revelations surged forward, unraveling truths I never realized I needed to understand. There was no judgment in that space, only love and an urgency that flowed from him, as if he was urging me to awaken to the realities I had long ignored. Visions enveloped me next, a torrent of images flashing like a cosmic film reel, a future punctuated by chaos, conflict, and division. I witnessed battles fought across distant lands, bloodshed carried out in the name of ideologies that concealed a more sinister agenda, a truth twisted by the hands of the elite. Leaders shrouded in darkness, faces etched in deception, manipulating the masses while their fingers danced upon the strings of technology, wielding power to cleave society further apart. My heart raced at the sheer enormity of it all as the weight of humanity's suffering pressed onto my soul. Images of innocent children being used as pawns in this spiritual war flooding my mind. I felt a wildfire ignite within me, a call to action, a need to reclaim the truth that had been buried beneath lies and manipulation. In that celestial moment, I grasped the precarious nature of existence, how easily we fall prey to the illusions spun around us. His voice pierced through the tumult. Awaken, for deception reigns. This is not a mere battle. It is a war for the souls of humankind. With each revelation, my spirit surged, flooding me with knowledge of a hidden war that raged beyond what our eyes could perceive. People remained blissfully unaware, paralyzed by comfort and routine, while the threads of their reality dissolved in the hands of a puppeteer. As these visions grew bolder, I felt the urgency build each heartbeat. A realization settled starkly in my heart. If I returned, I had a role to play in this unfolding drama, a purpose that demanded recognition. Yet, even as the light began to fade, dragging me back to consciousness, I knew deep down the struggle had only begun. The peace I had felt merely glimpsed the urgency that lay ahead. The profound wisdom imparted during that encounter with Jesus wasn't a conclusion. It was a tension that demanded resolution. I awoke bruised yet alive, still feeling the warmth of his presence clinging to me like a second skin. Each breath was laden with responsibility. Every prayer, every interaction laden with the weight of potential awakening. In that moment, I understood that my life as a truck driver had merely been the prelude to a far greater journey, one guided by the truths I had yet to unfurl. The path ahead was uncertain, but that uncertainty ignited a flame within me, compelling me to rise above the mundane, to fight against the shadows cloaked in deception, and to share what I had witnessed before it slipped away entirely. One moment. I was driving my truck down that familiar stretch of highway, the hum of the engine surrounding me like a comforting blanket. The sun hung low in the sky, its golden light spilling across the asphalt. A scene so ordinary it could have been any day in my life. I was a simple man, a father and husband, with dreams wrapped in routine, navigating through my daily grind. But then, in a heartbeat, everything changed. A tire blew out, and the vehicle spun out of control. Fragments of time, fractured as I grappled with the steering wheel, bracing for what felt like an impending doom. The world around me faded to black. In that darkness, I found myself suspended, a weightlessness that felt otherworldly, yet enveloping. A sense of calm swept over me, pulling me deeper into a space where fear held no power. It was within this void that I first sensed his presence. Light radiated in splendor, piercing through the shadows, illuminating everything within it. And there he stood, Jesus, vibrant and serene, the embodiment of love and grace. His gaze pierced through my very essence, unveiling layers of my soul I never knew existed. "You see?" he whispered, as if echoing the thoughts of my heart. "Life continues beyond what you know. There are truths hidden within the chaos of your world." In that moment, the veil was lifted, and I was shown a tapestry woven with the threads of humanity's pain and struggle. I witnessed wars that raged not merely on distant lands, but within the hearts of men, fueled by ambitions that masked themselves as righteousness. The revelation struck me, the elite puppeteers pulling strings from the shadows, manipulating perceptions, inciting division among us. Each image was a stark reminder of our shared plight, of souls shackled by apathy and blinded by ignorance. The gravity of this deception weighed heavily upon me, forcing me to confront the reality of our spiritual war, a battle fought not with weapons, but through the ideologies we choose to embrace. Suddenly, I was propelled through scenes of painful division, protests escalating into violence, families torn apart by differing beliefs, the chasm growing deeper between the rich and the poor. His voice anchored my spirit, explaining how technology, while a tool for connection, too often binds us in chains of distraction. "It has become a weapon against yourself," he urged. "You are losing touch with your truth, with each other, with me." I could feel a sense of urgency rising within me. He was imploring me to awaken others, to reveal the hidden agenda lurking in every news headline, in every social media feed. Then came visions of leaders, charismatic figures whose promises rang hollow against the backdrop of suffering. I watched as decisions made in opulent offices trickled down to the streets below, leading to chaos and despair. It was devastating to realize how often we are misled, believing in the facade crafted by those who profit off the pain of the many. Jesus looked at me, and in his eyes, I saw the hopes and fears of mankind intertwined. "The truth is far more powerful than the deception they spread," he said, "but it requires courage to seek it out. You must not remain silent." As my consciousness began to drift away from that sacred encounter, I was left with a heaviness that etched itself into my heart. I knew in that moment that my life had irrevocably changed, transformed by a divine revelation that demanded action. I had seen beyond the veil, glimpsed the intricate play of forces at work in the world, and felt the weight of responsibility on my shoulders. The journey ahead would not be easy, but it was necessary. With a fierce conviction burning within me, I stepped back towards the light, ready to embrace my role in this spiritual awakening. As I stood there, the weight of the world pressing down on my shoulders, it was just another ordinary day in my life as a truck driver. The endless stretches of asphalt had become my sanctuary, a place where the hum of the engine drowned out the noise of the chaos around me. I was just a man trying to make ends meet, hauling goods across state lines, dealing with customers' complaints, and the constant weariness from long hours. But all that changed one fateful afternoon when an unexpected accident sent my life spiraling into the unknown. It was a split-second moment. A tire blowout, a heavy load swerving out of control, and then darkness enveloped me. I felt as though I had slipped away from this world, my spirit leaving my battered body behind. In that otherworldly space, time ceased to exist. I felt an unparalleled sense of peace wash over me, as if all the burdens I had carried through my life had melted away. I suddenly found myself standing in a radiant light, an expanse of brilliance that felt both terrifying and awe-inspiring. And there, amidst the celestial glow, was Jesus. His presence radiated love and understanding, a warmth that penetrated my very essence. Indeed, that moment, he communicated not with words, but with an overwhelming sense of clarity. He revealed to me the hidden truths of our world, an intricate web of manipulation spun by the elite, a reality that thrived on our ignorance and fear. I saw visions of political leaders, their deceptions laid bare before me, and the unsettling revelation of how they operated behind the scenes, perpetuating wars and division for their gain. This spiritual awakening illuminated the disparities in our society. I witnessed families torn apart by misguided loyalty to ideologies that promised salvation, but delivered nothing but despair. I was shown the true nature of technology, an intricate device wielded by those in power to control the masses, to distract us from the spiritual war being waged against our souls. It was like a movie unraveling in front of my eyes. Snippets of news reports, images of protests, and the struggles of everyday people just trying to survive amidst the chaos. The truth struck me like a lightning bolt. We were pawns in a game, manipulated by unseen hands while we remained blissfully unaware of the greater agenda at play. As Jesus conversed with me in this ethereal realm, he imparted a sense of urgency that ignited a fierce determination within my heart. I understood that this revelation was not merely for me, but a call to awaken others, to share the message of truth that had been unveiled. These glimpses of our present and future brought forth a wave of anxiety. I could see the storms brewing on the horizon, conflicts fueled by hatred and division that threatened to engulf humanity. But even amidst this fear, there was an overwhelming hope present, the promise of awakening, of a collective realization that could shift the tide. I felt it deeply. It was the essence of what Jesus embodied. Yet, as I drifted between these profound insights, doubts began to creep in. Would I return to my life unchanged? Or would I find the strength to act upon these revelations? The thought loomed over me like a shadow. The pressure of societal expectations, of fitting back into the mold of normalcy, weighed heavily upon my spirit. I sensed the looming conflict, sensing how the spiritual war was not just external, but also waged within me. Would I become a messenger of truth, courageously speaking out against the tide of deception? Or would I succumb to the suffocating wall of fear? In that limbo between life and death, every second felt like an eternity, a pivotal moment demanding clarity and resolve. Just as I was about to make a decision, darkness began to encroach upon that sacred light, pulling me back toward the earthly realm. I felt the weight of my body again, the sharp contrast between the ethereal release of my spirit and the familiar burden of flesh. The urgency of my awakening crashed against the reality of my impending return, and I understood that I had been granted a rare opportunity. But what would I do with this truth? How would I navigate the complexities of a world laced with deception? Would I find the courage to speak, to share what had been revealed to me? Or would I be silenced by fear, trapped in a cycle of ignorance and denial? I could hear the echoes of my past life calling me back, yet the message of awakening screamed louder, urging me forward into the night. Just as the conflict between light and darkness raged on, I spent years as a factory worker, living a life defined by routine and obligation. I'd rise before dawn, navigating through the daily grind, echoing the lives of those around me. I had a wife, 2 kids, and a mortgage. The classic American dream tinged with the grim reality of bills piling up and dreams fading away. My faith was a flickering candle in a drafty room, and like many, I attended church simply because it felt expected, a checkbox on a long list of responsibilities. But in the shadows of my mundane existence, a deeper yearning stirred, a restlessness that suggested there was more than this life of endless labor and fleeting moments of joy. Then, everything changed on a fateful afternoon. I was on my way home, humming along to the radio, when the crash came. A violent collision that took my breath away. In an instant, everything turned dark. I didn't feel pain. Instead, I was struck by a profound silence. It was as if I had slipped through the fibers of reality, leaving my body behind. In that space, I felt suspended in a vast universe, drenched in light. Suddenly, I was no longer alone. Jesus stood before me, radiating not just light, but an overwhelming sense of love and peace. My heart raced as a wave of emotions crashed upon me. And it was in this sacred encounter that I began to understand the vastness of the spiritual war raging around us. In his gaze, I saw visions of our world. Chaos and division, conflict engineered by those who wield power in the shadows. Jesus revealed to me the hidden agendas at play, how leaders manipulated our lives, feeding on fear and ignorance. I watched people, often blinded by the facade of authority, torn apart by the very deception that kept them entranced. I saw the countless souls, trapped in empty ideologies, worshipping false idols, while the truth lay just beyond their reach, a truth that dared to break the chains of conventional thinking. The weight of these revelations bore down on me. The urgency to act was overwhelming. I had to awaken others. As I stood in the presence of my Savior, I felt an undeniable calling rising within me. Jesus spoke of a time in the not-so-distant future, when the lies would crumble, revealing the true motives of the elite. He warned of the growing threats, the manipulation through technology, the wars that would tear apart communities, all fueled by a lust for control. There was a sense of urgency in his message. Humanity was running out of time to embrace the truth before it was too late. My heart sank as I realized how deeply intertwined our lives were with the spiritual battle being fought daily, how our complacency had allowed darkness to creep in and take root. When I returned to my body, gasping for air, the mundane sights and sounds of my factory life felt different, colored by the experiences I had just witnessed. Wrapped in a shroud of confusion and urgency, I felt compelled to share my experience. I began gathering small groups, whispering about the hidden truths I had seen, about the deceptive systems that sought to keep us in bondage. I distributed Bibles discreetly, our meetings cloaked in secrecy, as if we were subverting the very law of nature. The fear of exposure lingered, but the fire burning within me was far greater than my terror. I couldn't let fear dictate my actions when the stakes were so high. Weeks turned into months, and the struggle within me intensified. I felt the weight of those revelations pressing on my heart, fueling a relentless desire to push against the facade of our reality. Each meeting revealed more, souls awakening to the same truths, the same realities I had seen in the light. Together, we forged a community that thrived in secrecy, challenging the status quo, and daring to believe there was more to existence than the chains that bind us. As I looked into their eyes, I saw a reflection of my own struggles, my own hopes for a different life, one where we could live unshackled from the deceptions of those who sought to control us. But I knew this journey was just beginning. The battle was far from over. The spiritual war raged on both within and outside us. My newfound mission, to expose the lies and illuminate the truth, demanded more than just faith. It called for a reckoning amidst the shadows. How far would I go to challenge the hidden powers at play? What sacrifices lay ahead as I stepped deeper into my calling, risking everything to bring light into this world, teetering on the edge of darkness? As I stood amidst my brothers and sisters in faith, the weight of reality pressed upon me, and I couldn't help but wonder what awaited us in a world darkened by deception. I never thought I'd find myself in the dark corners of a hospital room, clinging to life as the beeping machines droned on like a haunting symphony. I was just an average worker, a construction foreman who had dedicated his life to building homes and providing for my family. In a matter of moments, everything was stripped away when a freak accident plunged me into chaos. I remember the earth rumbling beneath my feet, the screams of my crew, the weight of the falling debris. It was all so vivid. And then, darkness. I crossed over, suspended between this world and the next, aware yet detached from the pain that had once defined me. In that moment of utter desolation, I felt myself being pulled into a light so brilliant that it eclipsed everything I had known. I knew I wasn't alone. The figure before me was dressed in a simple robe, emanating a warmth that penetrated the depths of my being. It was Jesus. His presence was so powerful, so consuming, that every fear I had ever held dissolved into nothingness. He looked at me with an intensity that spoke of love and judgment, compassion and stern resolve. "You are called to awaken," he said, the words echoing through my very soul. "Around you, a spiritual war rages, a war cloaked in deception and hidden agendas that threaten the core of humanity." With each word he spoke, a flood of visions crashed over me. I saw leaders making decisions that favored greed over grace, wars being waged not for justice but for power, an elite class manipulating societies like puppets on strings. I understood the technology meant to connect us was instead fostering isolation, blinding us to the truth of our shared existence. I felt the weight of the world's suffering, the cries of marginalized souls who were being kept in darkness under the guise of security and order. "The truth must be revealed," Jesus warned me, "and it is through you that countless souls will find their awakening." As I stood before him, my heart raced, not from fear, but from an overwhelming sense of duty. I had lived my life in the trenches, building homes, but rarely thought about the foundations of faith. The revelation felt like a burden and a gift, pressing down on me with urgent clarity. Those faces that flashed before me were not strangers. They were the forgotten, the oppressed seeking hope amidst the chaos created by the very systems meant to protect them. "Stand up," he urged me, "for they need the courage found in truth, for they need the hope of my message." Each revelation felt like a knife, cutting through the fabric of my understanding, unraveling my assumptions about faith and society. Time blurred as I wrestled with the enormity of my mission. The spiritual war he spoke of was palpable, a fierce battle emanating from the unseen. I could almost feel the hostility that lurked in darkened corners of power, those who preferred control over compassion, who used division to conquer hearts and manipulate minds. I remembered how I had often turned a blind eye, consumed by my daily grind, but now I could feel the awakening burgeoning like dawn, breaking through the night. The question loomed over me. Could I truly rise and embrace the calling set before me, infused with the truth I had witnessed? And just as I began to grasp the vastness of my charge, the darkness threatened to swallow me whole. A chilling pulse reverberated around me, a warning that the elite would not take this awakening lightly. What I was being called to do had consequences. Already I could sense the imminent dangers lurking post-revelation. It was a fragile balance between light and dark that I had to navigate. I knew I could not retreat into the shadows. I had to step boldly into the light of truth, despite the tumult swirling in my heart. What lay ahead loomed shrouded in uncertainty, but the urgency to act thrummed within me. Little did I know, I was just beginning to uncover the layers of this spiritual war. As I reflect on my experience, one question echoes in the depths of my soul. Have you ever felt the poignant tension between light and darkness? That haunting feeling that something greater, a cosmic struggle, plays out just beyond our awareness? In the fleeting moments where silence enveloped me, Jesus revealed a fragmented truth. He beckoned me to stand witness to a battle for our hearts, minds, and spirits, a spiritual war washing over our world like a tide, threatening to drown us in its deception. The urgency persists, urging us to rise in this critical hour. I felt the weight of responsibility, a calling that transcended my simple life as a construction worker. It was a call meant for all, inviting each of you to awaken to the realities that haunt our existence. Are we ready to challenge the paradigms that keep us entrapped in fear, disillusionment, and complacency? The truth is waiting, but it requires that we be bold in seeking, questioning, and ultimately sharing the light of what we've discovered. Now, I turn to you. What insights have you gained amid your own struggles? Have you experienced moments that begged for deeper understanding? I encourage you to share your stories in the comments. Your truth matters, and in the tapestry of our collective awareness, our voices can sew together the fabric of hope, courage, and enlightenment. We are not alone in this journey, and I want to hear from you. If this message resonates with you, don't miss the opportunity to dive deeper into the hidden truths of our existence. Subscribe to Truth from Beyond and activate the notification bell. Your commitment ensures you won't miss future revelations meant to guide and inspire us all. Coming up next, we'll explore the powerful testimony of another soul awakened by divine love, unveiling the depth of their transformation in the face of adversity. I invite you to embark on this journey together. My name is Hamza, and thank you for being a part of this critical conversation. Remember, the truth is a flame that ignites when we choose to seek it boldly.